What if one day, the CEOs of the world's most powerful mining giants were dragged from their luxury hotels in handcuffs by a small, landlocked nation in West Africa? On March 15, a moment that would echo across the globe unfolded in the capital city of Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. At exactly 6 a.m., special forces carried out a coordinated operation that stunned the world. 7 foreign mining executives, including the heads of billion-dollar corporations from Canada, Australia, and Europe, were arrested simultaneously. This wasn't a coup. This wasn't chaos. This was law, meticulously planned, carefully documented, and boldly executed by a man few had heard of before this day, Ibrahim Traoré, the young and uncompromising leader of Burkina Faso. In a world where multinational corporations have long operated with impunity in Africa, exploiting resources, evading taxes, and erasing communities, this was not just an arrest. It was a declaration of war against exploitation. It was the beginning of a revolution. So, how did a leader from one of the world's poorest nations outsmart global elites backed by political and financial powerhouses? How did he expose decades of corruption and bring it crashing down in a single morning? This is not the story of a rogue president. It is the story of a continent reclaiming its voice, its dignity, and its future. The operation began at dawn. At precisely 6 a.m. on March 15, a convoy of unmarked vehicles moved silently through the still streets of Ouagadougou. Special forces, highly trained and operating in complete secrecy, approached 7 luxury hotels across the city. Their mission: arrest the CEOs of the most powerful mining corporations operating in Burkina Faso, men who had for decades enjoyed immunity under the protection of money, influence, and foreign governments. Among them was Victor Petrov, the commanding figure behind Goldmax Corporation, one of the world's largest gold conglomerates. In another hotel across town, Jean-Claude Dubois, head of Canadian-based Western Gold Mining, was already packing his bags, his private jet on standby. And at a hotel conference room, Michael Thompson, executive at Australia's Pacific Resources, was mid-call, preparing to transfer company assets out of the country. But none of them escaped. Burkina Faso's special forces had sealed the airspace. All borders were locked down. They had floor plans, encrypted hotel key access, and even internal hotel surveillance on their side. Victor Petrov was pulled from his penthouse suite still in his pajamas. Dubois was intercepted en route to the airport. Thompson was caught red-handed with encrypted documents mid-transfer, the digital footprint now admissible evidence in court. What made this operation even more astonishing was the precision. Traore hadn't acted on impulse. For 6 months, his team had worked in silence, assembling a vast archive of financial records, drone footage of illegal mining activities, and satellite analysis of extraction volumes. Informants were embedded inside mining camps. A network of legal experts compiled airtight criminal files. Every accusation had evidence, every claim was documented. The country awoke to a shock. News bulletins ran the images: global tycoons, disheveled and shackled, being escorted into armored vehicles. It was not just a police action, it was a message. Africa was no longer playing by colonial rules. For decades, the wealth of Burkina Faso was disappearing beneath its soil, siphoned out through gleaming export routes, while its citizens remained trapped in poverty. On the surface, foreign mining companies declared modest earnings, paid minimal taxes, and presented themselves as investors. But behind closed doors, a hidden empire of deceit was thriving. Ibrahim Traoré's investigation uncovered a staggering truth. Over the span of 50 years, foreign corporations had extracted over $500 billion worth of gold, while only $10 billion ever entered the national treasury. This wasn't just tax evasion, it was economic warfare. Goldmax Corporation, the biggest player, was reporting only 1/10 of its actual production. At the Taparco mine alone, they declared extracting 1 ton of gold per day, while secretly exporting 10. In 2019, they raked in $500 million from this mine alone, yet paid just $5 million in taxes. Western gold mining employed a different tactic: fraudulent invoices. They claimed to sell gold at below-market prices, using manipulated receipts that undervalued the metal by 80 to 90%. Gold worth $60,000 was listed as $10,000. The difference? Wired to offshore accounts in tax havens. Pacific Resources took deception to a new level, manipulating payroll records. Miners were officially recorded as receiving 10 times their actual salary. This not only created false deductions for the company, but allowed executives to pocket the remainder. The workers, meanwhile, lived on crumbs. But the exploitation wasn't just financial. Traoré's team uncovered horrifying evidence of human rights abuses. Secret agreements between corporations and former government officials revealed systemic corruption. In 2015, Goldmax paid a $50 million bribe to the then Minister of Energy, slashing their tax rate from 30% to 3%. Western Gold Mining paid $100 million to the brother of the former president in exchange for new mining licenses granted on villagers' ancestral farmlands. Over 50,000 people were forcibly displaced. Their homes were bulldozed. Their voices silenced. Worse still, children as young as 12 years old were working in the mines, spending up to 16 hours underground each day. Lung diseases were rampant. Cancer rates in villages near Pacific Resources sites had increased tenfold, with cyanide pollution poisoning entire rivers. This wasn't business. This was modern colonialism in corporate clothing. And Traore had the evidence: thousands of pages of contracts, bank transfers, satellite data, and testimonies. His plan wasn't just to expose it. It was to prosecute it. The courtroom was unlike any Africa had seen before, not just for its high-profile defendants, but for its very structure. Ibrahim Traoré established a special international court, composed of judges from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Its mission was clear: to ensure justice without influence, without apology. Each arrested CEO faced a mountain of evidence, and a tidal wave of public outrage. Victor Petrov, of Goldmax Corporation, was charged with 234 separate counts: tax evasion, bribery, forced displacement, environmental destruction, and more. Jean-Claude Dubois, of Western Gold Mining, stood trial for 189 counts, including the use of child labor, a crime that shook the courtroom. Evidence revealed that 12-year-olds were forced into 16-hour shifts underground. Many never saw adulthood. Their lungs filled with dust and poison. Michael Thompson, of Pacific Resources, faced perhaps the most damning accusation: deliberate poisoning of water sources. His company had discharged cyanide waste into 3 rivers, contaminating entire ecosystems. Cancer cases in surrounding villages had multiplied. Over 2,000 deaths were attributed to the contamination. But beyond statistics were the stories. Musa Orahugo, now 23, took the stand. He had entered the mines at age 8. His voice trembled as he spoke: "They stole my childhood. They stole my health. They stole my future." He coughed violently during his testimony, a stark reminder of the irreversible lung damage he endured. Mariam Cow, a 70-year-old grandmother, recounted how her village was bulldozed to expand a mine. "Our ancestors are buried there," she said, weeping. "They gave us $100 and told us to leave. Now the gold from that land is in European banks." Adding fuel to the fire were internal emails retrieved from company servers, messages where executives openly mocked the people of Burkina Faso. One Goldmax executive called them stupid natives. A Western gold mining official wrote, "Why pay $100 to one adult when you can pay $10 to 10 children?" They never complain. There was no defense. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimonies undeniable. When sentencing day arrived, the world watched. Victor Petrov, 50 years in prison, $10 billion in fines. Jean-Claude Dubois, 45 years, $8 billion in fines. Michael Thompson, life imprisonment for environmental crimes. Other CEOs received similar sentences, ranging from 40 to 60 years. All their assets were seized. Private jets, yachts, villas, offshore accounts, art collections. These would be liquidated, with proceeds distributed to victim families. Traore made a simple but powerful statement after the verdict: "Today, we didn't just sentence 7 men. We put a colonial system on trial. And we won." With the verdicts delivered and the empire of exploitation dismantled, Ibrahim Traoré wasted no time in turning justice into transformation. He announced the creation of the Burkina Faso National Mining Company, a state-owned enterprise that would take full control of the country's gold reserves. All foreign mining operations were shut down, their bank accounts frozen, their machinery and stockpiles nationalized. The message was clear: Burkina Faso's resources now belong to its people. 70% of the revenues from these newly nationalized mines would be allocated directly to education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Within the first year, the impact was astonishing. Over 500 new schools were built, including technical universities in each mining region, enabling young people to study geology, engineering, and chemistry without leaving the country. 10,000 students received full scholarships. Villages that once sent children to work in mines now sent them to classrooms. In healthcare, 200 hospitals and clinics were constructed, bringing modern medical care to areas previously neglected. Electricity reached 2,000 villages that had never seen a light bulb. Clean water was provided to 3 million people for the first time. Roads once riddled with potholes were replaced with 5,000 kilometers of paved highways, connecting isolated communities to national markets. For the workers, the change was life-altering. The minimum wage increased tenfold, from $50 to $500. Child labor was banned outright, replaced by strict labor protections. Every mine worker was now covered by comprehensive health insurance. Modern safety protocols were introduced, and within months, fatal accidents dropped to zero, a milestone never before achieved in the country's mining history. What had once been a landscape of environmental destruction and social despair was quickly becoming a blueprint for post-colonial resilience. Western media, still clinging to old narratives, labeled Traoré a dictator. But for the people of Burkina Faso, he was something very different: a liberator. Streets were filled with celebration. Songs were written about him. Festivals were held in his name. One popular chant echoed from village to village: Traoré took back our gold. Traoré gave us our future. And the world took notice. From Mali to Guinea, Niger to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a wave of reforms began to swell. Traoré had sparked more than a national recovery, he had ignited a continental awakening. This was not just the story of a courtroom victory, it was the demolition of a centuries-old power structure. By standing up to corporate empires, Ibrahim Traoré did what many believed impossible: he reclaimed his country's wealth, dignity, and destiny. Justice was no longer a concept. It had been delivered, sentence by sentence, action by action. Gold that once vanished into European vaults was now building hospitals. Children once buried in mine shafts were now learning in schools. Rivers once poisoned by cyanide were being restored to life. The transformation was visible, not just in Burkina Faso's GDP or headlines, but in the eyes of its people. And yet, this story is far from over. As the CEOs serve time in Burkina Faso's scorching prisons, and their companies collapse into bankruptcy, something greater is rising. A movement. A message. A roadmap for any nation that dares to say, enough. Traoré's stand has already inspired a ripple effect across Africa, from the cancellation of mining licenses in Niger to investigations in Mali and Guinea. But its influence is also reaching beyond continents. Across Latin America, Asia, and even parts of Europe, activists are now asking the same question. If Burkina Faso can do it, why can't we? Share this story. Let it echo in every corner where resources are stolen and justice is denied. Support leaders who dare to break away from foreign exploitation. And stay tuned, because the dominoes haven't stopped falling. In our next video, we'll explore how Mali's leaders are following Traoré's path, and what that means for the future of Africa. The age of exploitation is ending. The age of sovereignty has just begun. For the first time, we, the people of Africa, feel seen. Not by outsiders, not by foreign powers, but by one of our own. Someone finally stood up for us. Not just for Burkina Faso, but for the entire continent. For generations, we have watched our lands emptied and our people forgotten. Our fathers labored in the mines, our rivers turned to poison, and our children were forced to carry burdens too heavy for their small hands. All while the gold beneath our feet made other nations rich. We were told to accept it. That this is how the world works. But then came a moment, a morning that changed everything. We saw the CEOs who exploited us being led away in handcuffs. And we didn't feel anger. We felt justice. We felt the truth being spoken out loud, that our pain mattered, and our silence had ended. What Ibrahim Traoré did was not just for Burkina Faso. He did what we all dreamed of, he said enough. He showed us that courage could be greater than money. That dignity could be restored. That Africa is not weak. Africa is not poor. Africa has always been rich, in resources, in spirit, in people. Now we believe that our children will inherit more than broken promises. That they will go to school, not into mines. That they will build, not survive. That our wealth will serve our people, not foreign bank accounts. This is not just a story about gold. It is about liberation. We pray, for Mali, for Congo, for Niger, for every corner of Africa still under shadow. If one nation can rise, then all of us can. We are no longer waiting. We are no longer begging. We are awake. And we will never go back to sleep.